I read in your book, Killing the Host, that you decided to become an economist after meeting one named Terrence McCarthy, who
Yes.
who explained to you why financial crises tend to occur in the autumn after crops are harvested. And this was an
Yes.
interesting tale. So,
Th-
I mean, what's the story, and why was it so compelling for you that after this
Well,
conversation?
most economies used to be agricultural economies. That was the center. And there was something called the autumnal drain. In other words, when it was time to move the crops, banks needed to provide the credit for the wholesale buyers of grain to pay the farmers for their crop, to buy the crop. And that would drain money out of the banking system. And if banks were too highly leveraged, if they didn't have enough backing and reserves, they would go insolvent. And sometimes the debt tended to build up, but there was a kind of rhythm. And I was entranced by the fact that there was a regular rhythm to all of this, almost a calendrical rhythm, not only to the timing of the crashes, but the fact that the crashes got bigger and bigger and bigger as the debt burden grew until finally the whole system crashed and a lot of debts were wiped out by a bankruptcy. What I didn't know at that time, and what I have discovered in the last 40 years of studying how credit and money began in the third millennium BC in Mesopotamia, was that economies from the third millennium right down through feudal Europe and into modern times only used money really at one time of the year when the crops were in. What did farmers do when the crops were being were planting and maturing? Well, people lived on credit. And the idea was that you'd get by after you planted the crops, and you'd buy beer. I mean, we actually have the records from Babylonia that cultivators would buy beer. They'd run up tabs at the bar, which were run by alewomen. And just as in modern times, you'll have wage earners going to the bar and running up a tab until payday. The payday for ancient societies right down through the 20th century was autumn when the crops were in. And in Mesopotamia, the debts had to be paid on the threshing floor. And that was the only time when you actually needed money for settlement. Same thing in medieval Europe in the 13th century already. You have credit due then. And after fractional reserve banking came in to Europe and North America, you still had the habit of farmers having to spend a lot of money, often on credit, to plant the seeds. They'd run up a tab. They'd hire workers to help with the planting. They might have to rent machinery, or in earlier times, rent plow oxen to do some of the plowing. All of these debts came due in the autumn. And so there was a bump. I think that gave birth in America to the idea that there were business cycles. And of course, it wasn't simply a cycle. A cycle goes on and on regularly forever, but it was a cycle with a rising amount of debt. And I realized then that a debt crisis was inevitable, not only for the agricultural sector, but all society was becoming, in a way, like the agricultural sector. Companies would borrow, and landlords would borrow to buy buildings, all expecting to pay them later. Something would happen, especially if the crops would fail. Imagine if banks had made loans to the farm suppliers, to the seed companies, to all the others, and all of a sudden there was a crop failure. The water level would go down, and there would be a drought. Well, that would cause a failure, and there would be defaults all along the line. And what Terrence was talking about was the fact that the water level in the Midwest tended to rise and fall. And there was actually an environmental cause of the timing of the financial collapses. So that entranced me. And I found economics suddenly to become artistic almost. It was fascinating. And I went to work on Wall Street for banking to decide this because Terence had convinced me that ultimately the debts couldn't be paid and there would be a crisis, and that was going to be the big problem facing society. And this is already in 1960, 61.